Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. Bradley's mother, Narcisse Golan, passed away 3 months ago. Bradley is autistic and needs structured routine and therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to Italian social services. If he is ruled to go back, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system where he can't speak or understand the language. He will be taken away from the only family he has ever known. Please call Governor Hochul and voice your concerns at 518-474-8390. That's 518-474-8390 to please keep Bradley here in these United States. Hashtag keep Bradley safe. I have a return guest. I'm very honored to have Kenneth Gottfried back on. He is an author of 3 books, one of which is called Victim. The second is called Child Abusers Wear Black Robes, and the third one is called Killing Judges. Now, I had him last on my podcast, which was January 4th, 2023, where we spoke out on the importance of the podcast we were doing and what you need to know. And he's also been on season 2, episode 108, 122, and 148, and then season 3, episode 98, where we discussed his book Victim: How the American Psychological Association Kills Parents, Abuses Children, and Grows Their Base. And his website, which is childabusivejudges.com. Where he's got at least over 600 judges documented for child psychological abuse. I welcome you back, Kenneth. I'm so glad to have you back on.
Thank you so much for having me on, Marianne. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, just to let you know, to clarify one thing, is they are accused judges of child abuse, psychological child abuse. So they're not documented child abusers, but they're documented as accused child abusers.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that we can get into there, but no sheriff's department, no police departments want to fill out a report or file anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially when the APA has said that child psychological abuse is worse than physical and sexual abuse combined, but yet they're not getting that. I don't know why they're not getting that.
It's money, money, money. That's the way it goes. But we could go into deep dive on all this stuff. But right now, today, let's talk about you, Bill Burnett, Amy Baker, Craig Childress, anybody who's in this parental alienation sphere and family court and even Department of Child Services in their realm, and how we happen to deal with so many parents and the toll it takes on us, and how we have to be incredibly understanding of all the levels of PTSD and things that are happening to parents, and unfortunately some of the more stressors are the people that we will talk to or call us up or contact us that are literally off the chain. And
Yes.
we're like, and it's a hard thing because we want to help everybody. And what do you do when you get a call from a person who literally is, and you're talking with them, and we know some of the depths of PTSD. We've been through them. But when you have somebody who's totally unregulated and you're like, ooh, I need to exit stage left because this is too much even for me. And the toll it takes on both you and I. Because we just get the, we get so almost everybody is unhinged to a certain extent. And family court, Division of Child Services had made them that way.
Exactly. Even when I was accused of emotional child abuse with 2 back-to-back indications, I took care of things before things got out of hand. I went to a doctor who referred me to a really great psychiatrist who knew what he was doing because he knew what I was dealing with, CPS and the family court system. And he was not trying to shove pills down my throat either. We each had a say in what we wanted to do with this treatment, but that got me through it. Yes, I have PTSD, complex PTSD from all of this, but I'm able to, somewhat hold it in check, you know? I get
Totally.
irritable quick. I mean, I do, I admit it, I get irritable quick, especially at stores. But it we get these callers with, parents that, some of them are calm and rational.
Yeah. That's literally, and it's funny because it's probably about the calm ones, 15 to 20%. The people that are somewhere in the midst of, with it, losing their kids and worried and
Mhm,
upset and being a victim of domestic violence and all this other stuff. That's probably like 50%, 60%, even maybe, but then we get the 5% to 8%ers that are, well, I think it's okay to hit my kid like I did. I think it's okay to do this. No one should tell me whatever. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And no, and the narcissistic borderline person in that complaint or in that person kind of shows through that they can't be told or can't listen to someone else even suggesting, hey, this is probably wrong of you, or
Mhm,
did you think about other ways to do this, because they're set in stone.
mm,
And it's like, at that point when you try and get that far, you realize you can't help that person, and no matter what you say, you're that enemy.
mhm,
You're now on that bad side. And it's tough. And
mhm,
sometimes we all have to walk away. I had this one, you'll love this one.
mhm.
They they took their kids away, and I'm trying to keep this non mom or dad. I'm trying to keep this parent, and
Mhm.
I had this one parent. Well, I only do cocaine twice a week, and I'm like, what? Well, yeah, I got it under control. No, no, no. If you're doing it twice a week, you don't have it under control.
Mhm.
And so, oh, but I know what I'm, the moment they say, I know what I'm doing, and it's dealing with drugs, I'm like, oh my God. Because I don't even know how, no, if you're doing that, you're not really in control of your surroundings, your kids, your whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't know. It's very difficult for me to find the empathy there.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
unfortunately, this person would continually, for like a year, call me up, and I'm like, I have to back away,
Mhm.
you know, because at that point, when someone is supposed to be clean and they're ordered to do tests and they can't pass a single one, you're like, I can't help you. So,
Right, or there are people that I got a call and I think it was even a text, but they could not understand English language, and,
okay,
I can't I said, "Well, maybe your attorney could come on and speak. I'm trying to work with them." You they didn't have one. And this is everybody's problem is a lot of people have been totally run through the system and cannot even and that's what happened to me. I was swiping charge cards to the point where I had to go pro se, represent myself. But when there's a language barrier, is there someone who else can translate? And that was slim.
yeah, well, the court is supposed to have a translator no matter who you are.
Mhm,
You're in court, they should have somebody who's Italian to English or
mhm,
Russian to English that's in there that can translate.
mhm.
Unfortunately, what we all find out is the family courts don't care.
Right.
They'll push you off, and they'll not have the translator there, and then And unfortunately they have no problem doing as much illegal stuff as possible. I mean, they just don't.
Mm.
And because they get away with everything. One of the things that everybody has found out, and I was told this by an attorney, Ken, you have a great case. You have the judge calling your attorney to your old attorney to the stand. You have that. That's not allowed. You have, failure of due process, but it's an attorney. And as a judge or as a member of the bar, we will never touch that.
Mm.
I mean, it's great. Only now, if you're looking at YouTube videos, do you actually see that there are attorneys out there fighting the fight, civil attorneys that are like, no, this is injustice. But attorneys still refuse to go after judges. And so, anyhow, I don't want to get too far
Well,
off topic because this one's really about care and about the people we're dealing with. And I understand why therapists, why a lot of these, I don't want to say highbrow, but people who have a higher elevation or stature in us, in this community, get calls, get everybody calling them up. Why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you doing this for free? You know what we're going through, blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, we're all going through the same stuff. We're all fighting this behemoth that is so unjust and unfair.
mhm,
And so it's taking all of us. Like right now, there's a guy who's doing a protest up in New York,
mhm, mhm.
and I sent him out a banner and stuff like that. It takes so much more. I wish that instead of the protests, I really wish these guys would not protest. I wish they would take the signs, take the banners, and march all of them straight down to the magistrate's court and file charges against their judges.
Mhm.
Just go, I want to file child abuse charges, emotional and psychological. I want to file domestic violence charges. And if they were to do that, that would make a bigger impact. And by all means, video it. Show people that these judges, that these magistrates, these sheriff's departments and police departments all will say, not our jurisdiction. We're not going to write this report. Blah, blah. We're not going to investigate it, and show how corrupt the whole situation is. Because honestly, I don't want to say this, but I haven't seen protesters or petition do anything. Nothing, unless they get a bunch of them,
Mm.
and they're literally they're walking into the Capitol buildings and saying we want change.
Right. Because I just feel people say, write to your legislators. Uh, I think that's pointless. As well as these proclamations. I don't even know what those proclamations do, if
Oh,
anything.
it's not even a band-aid on a wound.
Yeah.
It's literally throwing a band-aid into the air that hopes it lands on a wound eventually, but
Mhm.
it doesn't. There's so much, and unfortunately, these idiot politicians, these idiots from the DHS, the the other people also see that 10%, that 8%. And what do you do with the other 90%? You just, unfortunately, these politicians, these sheriff's departments, these whatever, they throw them away. They throw all of them away because this one person may come in and be off their rocker and be like, yeah, no, that person may or may not leave them alone until they're actually threatened. You need to stop it, or, we're going to do something. And you're just like, but you can't have that population that is over the top ruin everything else for the other 90%.
Mhm.
And that's what a lot of us and a lot of therapists, a lot of writers, are dealing with. because we're still trying to move forward to do stuff. But, with the exception of those ones that want to throw us under the bus along with them because they don't have a good grasp of reality.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
just
go ahead.
yeah, it isn't I feel bad that they don't. I wish they would go to a counselor. There's no shame in going to a counselor. Finding the right counselor is a very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people are against medication, and that's fine if you don't want to take it, but it sure helped me get through everything. And I went off some of it. So
Yeah,
once it was over, that's
I
just it.
know, I know, but unfortunately, I mean, you have people who are literally using their last dollar to get food,
Right.
and you don't have, and some of them, that's one instance, but other ones, I don't care how good of a counselor you have, how good of a therapist you have. When you have somebody who's completely narcissistic borderline that cannot take any kind of advice and sit back and process that,
Mhm.
and there's not, and there's a lot of times no drug that will actually get to them, and nothing will
Mhm.
get to and most of the time nothing will get to them unless they have somebody who's like, okay, where did this come from, and get them for like 6 months to a year to be like really digging in, where did this attitude come from,
Mhm.
and to really help them out. Now, I am in favor of therapists because I had such a great therapist up in when I was in Boone, North Carolina. His name was Bob Hill.
Mhm.
Love that guy. But boy, he was wrong all the time in my case. Ken, don't worry, that will never happen. And it happened.
Oh,
Ken, don't worry,
no.
next time you go into court, that will never happen. It happened. Ken, don't worry about this. That will never. And but he was absolutely stellar.
Mhm.
Um, you know, to find somebody like that
Right.
is next to impossible, to understand what's going on, and he did understand not the entire thing and the
Mhm.
entirety of it, but he understood about, he had a good 300, not 360, but 300-degree vision of everything that was happening. But boy, to find somebody like that
Right.
is
Well,
next to
yeah.
impossible. And even when I was going through it, with all due respect, every single person who was a counselor to my kids, who was involved, there was a um God, there's another guy over at Appalachian State, and his boss that basically said, we're not even going to look at psychological child abuse. We're not going to even mention it, and leave us alone. Don't come back to us. I'm like, guys, this is you have to do this.
Mhm.
Mandatory reporting, and you have these people who will fight you and pretend that
Mhm.
they are the best. So it can't help but put a person that in a position to where you're going for help,
Mhm.
and there's something wrong. And you know what? If you got evaluated and you were like, you're crazy, okay, let me take a breath.
Mhm.
What do I need to do? How can I help that? Please tell me.
Mhm.
You know, but you're saying that your kids are being emotionally abused, and they're saying we don't care and we're not going to report it, and we're not. You cannot help but be emotionally compromised at
Mhm.
that point. I'm going to the experts, the people who are supposed to know, and so we all have compassion for that. What I'm really trying to say is the balance that we have to have of being a lightning rod, having people call us up, having, and you doing podcasts and doing everything you can. You have some freaking wonderful, wonderful
Oh,
podcasts.
thank
And
you.
you're welcome. And, you go through these, you listen to them, you listen to these stories, and you're like, why isn't anything being done?
Mm,
There's so much damage in what's called secondary damage, is that
mhm,
you go to a professional and you say, hey, I need your help, this is what's happening, and they turn you away and they don't report the child abuse, which is kind of what the APA does, the American Psychological. They write reports, unseen wounds, psychological child abuse is as bad as sexual and physical, if not worse. They
mhm,
write these stupid things. They write these letters to the president, President Trump at the time, separating kids at the border is
mhm.
horrible. Well, what about separating kids during family court? We don't want to
Yeah.
talk. Really? So you can't help but get secondary injuries from these people who refuse to acknowledge what's going on,
Mhm,
and actually make money from the child abuse and the domestic violence that throws people off a kilter. So it just, and I guess what I'm really trying to say, as the lightning rods of all of us,
mhm,
who are trying to move this forward, it is very difficult when we deal or we encounter with somebody who literally is in that 8% to 15%er who is narcissistic borderline.
mhm. And then it seems like they take it out on us.
Everybody who does not jump in line with their thoughts, yes. And a lot of times those people, their thoughts are discombobulated. They're not a flow of, of because of this happened, because of this. It's like, this is what's going on. Well, what about all the stuff you did here? That has nothing to do with that. So it's very difficult to find that center line, you know, and that path where, as you know, as lightning rods for these people coming in to filter out the people who are okay, you're a little bit off. And I
Mhm,
have told people to their face,
mhm,
I'm like, listen, you're off. And they're like, what? It's like, you're not flowing properly.
mhm,
You're not making sense on this, and I'll try and point out stuff. And I was like, I need to have some semblance of flow. Now I will say this other thing is that when you have PTSD, having that flow is tough.
mhm,
You have to be able to listen to everybody and see where they're at, and see, okay, are they not making sense because of what they've been through?
mhm,
Anytime your kids are being taken away, you're you constantly, on any normal person, what did I do?
mhm,
What do I need to change? What am I missing? How do I fix this? Those four things, you're repeated over and over again until it literally drives you insane when you still don't have your kids.
mhm, mhm,
Anyhow, that's kind of really what I wanted to say, is that, to everybody out there, we understand.
mhm,
We're here. We're doing podcasts, we're writing books, we're trying to fix a situation. But there's a lot you can do with us to not just jump down our throats.
yeah.
Because we're all trying.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and, that's the best we can do. It sounds like it's just all talk and no action, but like you just offered advice of people going down to the magistrates as a group
yeah,
and filing charges. And I think if everyone started doing this, this possibly, I would hope, could end this child psychological abuse from going
I'd
on.
like to make one other thing. If
Okay.
you have 8 people going down protesting, every one of you, okay, you are also, if one person says, I want to file child abuse charges against, this person, and that because of my kids and blah 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 blah, all 6 of you behind him, I want to file against, my people, but I also want to file against his people as well.
Mhm,
File suspected child abuse.
mhm,
If they say, oh, this is only hearsay, whatever, um look for, there's a statute in every state's charter, every state's legislature, about refusing to report suspected child abuse. So if you're telling a magistrate or a deputy or whoever, listen, I'm not going to file a report, at that point, oh, by the way, video it. Always video record everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you can say, okay, dial 911. Hi, I've got somebody here who's breaking statute 23 RB, whatever. He is failing to report child abuse and put it to the proper authorities. He thinks, or she thinks, that they have a supreme authority and understand psychological abuse and have already addressed the situation. I want to file in Florida, it's felony charges. In other states, it's misdemeanor charges. I want to file this against this magistrate or this deputy or this sheriff for refusing to take a report of suspected child abuse. And and if they say, oh, it's well, blah blah blah, whatever, I'm not going to do it, that is exactly the statute that they fall under.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that other deputy, that other police department, they should have to write a report and file it against them, because how many people have gone, I want to report suspected child abuse, and they've pushed off?
Mm-hmm.
How many people have they said, hey, listen, I want to report a police officer or deputy and write a report, not file charges, but do a complaint against them, and the police push you off? There's hundreds, there are thousands.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing goes on with us. Do not let them get away with it. Record the fact that they are refusing to take a report.
Mm-hmm.
They're refusing to write a report on the other person, because that's a felony or misdemeanor. Just to give you an idea, just a couple weeks ago, I was trying to help a father, and the deputy was like, well, I can't do anything. It's out of state, it's out of this, out of our jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to push too hard,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't, I don't want to say what the situation was, but I didn't want to inject myself too heavy, because I thought the father was doing a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, or the parent. Sorry.
Okay.
But the deputy's like, it's out of my jurisdiction. And I was like, can you show me? I wanted to say, can you show me where it says this in your statute? Because it doesn't. That's them saying, I don't want to do my job. Okay, because it doesn't matter if the child abuse is in this county, some other state, anywhere in the US, they should have to write a report. That is them saying, we don't want to take it. Now, in Florida, I could have escalated it, said, another deputy, I hate to say this, but I want to file this statute, this charge, for a felony of him not writing the report.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, I was like, you have to take this report. You cannot just artificially say, oh, I've seen this before, this is blah blah blah. You have to take that report, or you can get, and if that other guy doesn't do it, you can keep escalating, and then that deputy will also fall into that felony charge.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep doing it. And the only thing you can do is go to the top and have them, and please have this on video, of all of them saying, no, we're not going to do our job and protect children.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best things we can do, and show the world that these people are so corrupt that it doesn't matter if a judge is in Florida or a judge is in New Jersey. They will protect the establishment. By the way, I have some news coming out in another couple of weeks.
Okay.
It's a book / open letter. And all I can say is, yeah, it's good. It's really good. It's really good. And I'm waiting on, so I'm gonna always say this wrong if I say it too quick, public records requests. Okay. I'm waiting for those to
Interesting.
come through.
Yeah.
And once I have those, this is it's gonna be really good.
Well, I'm glad. Well, when you just to piggyback back off of what you were saying, when these people don't wanna, um, you know, report or take your report of this, emotional child abuse. Okay, they came after me with emotional abuse charges.
Totally.
Okay, so they can go after a parent for emotional abuse, yet we can't go and report at it doesn't make that does not make any sense.
Doesn't, does it?
No.
It's crazy. But you know what? If you go in, my kid was sodomized. Oh, let me get a paper. What?
Yeah.
Who? Where? When?
Uh-huh.
They are all over that. But the moment you're saying emotional, they all dry up.
Well, they
And
didn't in my case.
well, but did the police come after you for emotional? Or but it, did the what do you call it? The judge, he came up with that with yeah. So
Yeah.
they I'm telling you, they have to they're appeasing the judge. It's all about the balance between them. And in my new book, yeah, it shows it. It
Mhm.
shows it clearly. Okay. In my new letter, it yeah.
Well,
I don't want to say anything, but this new one, I need to do a pre-release because this is going to be really, really good, and people want to read this.
that's excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and most people will just sit back and be like, "Oh my god!"
Mhm.
Literally, they're going to sit there and be like, because now yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. It's really stellar. It's really
Nice.
stellar.
I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
it. See, and the thing is,
yeah,
any parent, even though they're cleared of, any charge, even emotional abuse, that
totally.
and people should keep it in mind, that family court judge is still gonna treat you like you are an emotional child abuser. But it's okay for
Mhm.
them to do it, but if you go after them, oh, no, no, the immunity crap, oop, sorry, and then you're left with saying, "Dear God, remove this judge from my life," like I did,
Absolutely.
remember? And God answered my prayers, and the judge passed away of pancreatitis, probably because of too much of this.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
good. Another one bites the dust, as we always say.
Well, that
There,
was yeah, no, he can't hurt any more families.
yeah. Well, I know, but there's a long line of
Yeah.
criminals just waiting to take his space.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
So,
yeah, the next criminal was just like him, and he just kept everything the same. And
yep,
that's what happens, unfortunately.
yep. But things are. I think things. Yeah, yeah. Then my next, yeah, you're gonna love the title as well.
Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
I'll have to have you back on.
Oh, you will, because it's an open letter of just some of the stuff that I've done over the last year and a half.
Mhm.
I've written letters to FBI, Christopher. Matter of fact, here, to that.
Oh, yeah, yep.
That's Christopher Wray. He's the director of the FBI. I've spoken with the Department of Justice. I've gone as high as I know what to do,
Mhm.
and everything's going to be in this open letter, which is going to be, it's not small, but it's going to be there.
Oh,
And yeah, it's going to say a lot to what's going on, into what's
well
going on.
and
Yeah,
that's good because people need to be informed, and, I know I won't keep you too much longer because I know you're super busy today, but,
yeah.
how can people reach you?
They can reach me on the website childabusivejudges.com. There's a thing that you can contact us. Um, you know, send me a contact through there. I'm happy to speak to anybody. I'm dealing with a handful of vets right now who are being abused by the system, not treating fairly. And you just, I don't even know, it just doesn't stop.
No.
These people just don't. Stop. My fourth book will explain that.
Excellent.
Yeah, in great exact details. And then you'll understand, you'll sit back and you'll be like, oh, now I understand.
Mhm.
Because it's not just the judges.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I could throw my 2 cents in saying that the attorneys participate and they enjoy participating this as well, so they can drag out the case.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll do another podcast, but hey, don't jump off. Slam the Gavel to podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here in the future with Kenneth Gottfried, author, and other exciting guests. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Marianne.